So this is going to be talking about the Jordan Airship and its, I suppose, failure to launch. And it's one of those sneakers that was originally released in 1984 and was kind of the precursor to, I suppose, Michael Jordan's own line of sneakers. And it was originally created as a basketball trainer, and obviously this was before Michael Jordan's time at Nike. And it was designed by Peter Moore. And these were initially worn by Michael Jordan once he was kind of signed on to Nike. And basically some of the games that you see him playing in, he kind of wore these. And they were pretty much the sort of test bed for the Jordan 1 that came after this. So the Jordan Airship has sort of re-retroed before and over the years. And they had a big push for it in 2022 onwards. And it was following pretty much after the Jordan 1 hype. I suppose it's one of those sneakers that during its time in like 2022, it was kind of supposed to, I suppose for Jordan brand anyway, to replace or, to follow on from the Jordan 1 hype. And I don't think they realised that, I suppose at that time, Jordan 4, pretty much a year before that, sort of took off and became the more popular silhouette for Jordan brand. And for that reason, and also maybe the desirability of an airship isn't as high as a Jordan 1 and doesn't hold as much cachet for people. But they did try to sort of push this silhouette quite a bit, and it was one of those ones that I suppose, sort of released at a wrong time, because it was in, because of the Jordan 2 releasing as well, near enough at the same time, which is back in 2021. It was one of those sneakers that I think probably came out at the wrong time, because like I said, it was just coming off the hype of the Jordan 1 after the Last Dance documentary, and I think people were getting to the point of, I suppose, Jordan brand fatigue. And, the Jordan Airship is a similar, like I said, silhouette to the Jordan 1, so in that respect, it's using the same sort of tech. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, it's part of, Michael Jordan's legacy and part of his lore, so it was the first, I suppose, pair of Nike sneakers that, as far as we know, that he wore on in-game. And for me, like the Jordan brand themselves, I think they did a lot of missed opportunities in terms of sort of storytelling for this particular sneaker, and the way they sort of launched it was quite sort of muted. And I think they just thought the hype of Jordan brand at that point would just make it a sort of instant seller, but it just never had any kind of, I suppose, background or sort of storytelling. And a lot of these sneakers were just sort of pumped out, like the Jordan 2 as well at that time. So with the sort of details of the airship, it's like a medium to firm comfort in my eyes, and pretty much all the sneakers are similar in terms of comfort. And the different types of airships that have been released in different colorways and different collabs, they all have sort of slightly varying comfortability because of the fact that it has, some have better polyurethane insoles and better materials overall. And at the end of the day, this is, like I said, same as a Jordan 1, where it has a rubber cup sole with an airbag unit in the heel. And similar again to a Jordan 1, you can go true to size on these, but also wide footers probably need to go up half size, and it's kind of what I do. And also bear in mind that the lip on the end of the sneaker is slightly more curved inwards versus a Jordan 1, and it's not as boxy, so just be wary of that. That can sometimes cause, I suppose, maybe for you to sort of go up half size, especially if you're in between sizes. And most of the sneakers that have been released have been pretty much overall leather construction of one thing or another. And also, obviously, if it's not leather, then it'll be like a more of a suede nubuck material. And they're pretty good sneakers for casual streetwear type wear. So it's one of those ones where there's a lot of plain colours out there, similar to the, I suppose, Jordan 1 in that respect, where they have like the neutral greys and like the midnight navies and things like that, where they've got like neutral colour schemes, where it's pretty much all over white with a hint of blue or a hint of red or orange. So in that respect, these types of footwear are cool in terms of, being sort of more muted rather than being loud. And the price for these are £145, which I think in this day and age, and currently in the way the sneaker market is at the moment, is pretty reasonable. Obviously, you'd want it cheaper, but considering it's pretty much similar to Jordan 1, the pricing isn't too bad. So the reasons why I think, you should buy like the Jordan Airship is, like if you're a fan of like the whole Jordan lore and the silhouettes in general, then obviously you're probably going to be grabbing at least a pair of airships. And like I said before, the comfort is pretty much the same as a Jordan 1, so you're not going to see anything too different there. And if you're a fan of Jordan 1s, then you'll probably like airships as well. And I also think they look different. So a lot of the models, like I said, the collabs and things like that, there's been quite a different types of sneakers out there in the way they look and the materials and stuff. And it's one of those, I suppose, silhouettes that's going sort of under the radar. So not a lot of people have been, well, I've seen not wearing them. And I suppose similar to a Jordan 2, but I think with the Airship, they're a bit more easy to wear because of the fact that they sort of resemble a little bit of a Jordan 1, I guess. And as I sort of mentioned earlier, there's loads of collabs out there and choices. So you can, go with plenty of them. There's like the Soulgoods collabs. There's the Awake New York collabs, with the red and blue pair, and the blue pair coming out quite soon as well. And the leather quality on those is superb, and probably, I think, my top Airship. And then you've got the Every Game pack, which is the Jean Red and the University Blue colorway, which I'm a fan of in terms of the execution of those sneakers. But I think the cracked leather on there is not for me. And then you've got the other ones, which is, I think, the Oquim collab as well. And then there's a few others like the Armand Manier, where they've released, 3 or 4 different types of limited production of airships as well. As well as, obviously, the sort of standard GR versions that came out, which is kind of like the University Gold, the green pair, the Midnight Navy pair, the Diffused Blue, I think there is as well. So there's plenty of like choices out there to grab. So I definitely sort of recommend, especially because of the fact that they're very low in price. So you should be able to pick up a lot of these on sort of sale or less than, the actual retail price, especially on the secondary market. And if you're kind of, after a cheap pair of Jordan 1s and, you don't want to pay Jordan 1 prices, then these are probably going maybe even lower than Jordan 1s, for instance, and still give you that same sort of look and comfort, I guess. But even some of the collabs are really cheap. I picked up the Awake New York pair for about, I think it was about £75, which is very cheap in my eyes. And that's a really nice collab and done really, really well. And then you got sort of the Every Game pack as well, where they're quite sort of low in price and again being sort of semi collabs, I guess. And then you got the sort of, like I said, the GR versions, which are very cheap as well, and they're kind of anywhere between sort of the £70 to £90 depending on your size. So in that respect, I can sort of recommend them if you're like looking for, I suppose, especially if you're like trying to grow your Jordan collection as well. It's a good one to get, and like I said, going under the radar. And I don't think they'll be like producing any more of these, going forward, because they're kind of cutting back production on a lot of the silhouettes. And I've already seen, like things like the Jordan 7 or the Jordan 9 or the 10s, they're not really producing that many of them, or even like the 13s as well, as an example. So, I'd probably try to grab, if you're interested in these, and at least try to grab 1 or 2 pairs, and, that will kind of keep you going for quite a long time, because, again, like the Jordan 1s, they will last you a long time as long as you take care of them.